Good morning. First of all, I would like to thank Inpeco and Pinnacles for inviting me to share our experience with my Chinese colleagues. It's a pleasure for me to be here today with you to explain the first installation worldwide of the FlexLab X, the new automation truck developed by Inpeco. Here at the bottom of the slide, you can see my email address, jlbedini@clinic.cat. So please feel free to send me an email if you need anything else from me after my presentation. I will be more than happy to reply your questions. I want to start my presentation introducing to all of you my hospital. Hospital Clinic in Barcelona. It's a university hospital. It has the maximum complexity of hospitals in Spain, the third level, and is located right in the middle of the city of Barcelona. We take care as a community hospital of more or less 600,000 people, and the hospital includes two other sites, Hospital Plateau and Hospital Maternitat. These are spoke sites that have small laboratories, but they send us the rest of the activity to be performed at the main hub site at Clinic Barcelona. These are images of the hospital. Here you can see the Villarroel campus, the main site. It's a very old building that was built by the end of the 19th century. This is Maternitat campus, one of the spoke sites, and this is Plateau campus, the other spoke site. More or less, they are far 3 kilometers in different directions from the main hub site at Barcelona. Here you can see, as I mentioned before, that we are located right in the middle of the city of Barcelona. The hospital is this green area that will be highlighted right now, and the building in the middle that will be highlighted in yellow is the University of Barcelona, where many of us, we are also professors of medicine. I want to share in the next coming slides some data about the activity of the hospital in the year 2024. Here you can see the number of beds, including the three sites, around 900 beds, the number of admissions per year, outpatient visits per year, emergency room visits, surgical procedures, the mean length of stay, 6.4 days is the actual mean length of stay, the number of employees, around 6,200 employees, the budget, over 750 million euros, and in the next coming slides, I want you to introduce the CDB, the Biomedical Diagnostic Center, which is the name that we have provided to our laboratories. Overall, we are more than 490 employees. This is the budget, around 60 million euros per year. This is the total surface occupied by our laboratories, the total activity including all the labs, and the activity performed by the core lab, the main lab where the FlexLab X has been installed, is around 7.7 million tests per year. That represents roughly 91% of the total activity in our labs. This slide is to present you our labs organization. In the year 2001, we created one of the first core labs in the world, including tests coming from all the lab disciplines: clinical chemistry, microbiology, immunology, and anatomic pathology. Later on, in the year 2016, we opened the molecular biology core lab. So following the same idea that we had in the year 2001, we, instead of buying NGS, SpecMass, and molecular biology technology for each lab department, we created a core lab with the same idea that we had in 2001 for the creation of the clinical chemistry core lab. All the labs together, as I mentioned before, we have the name of Centro Diagnóstico Biomedical Diagnostic Center. These are few numbers about the core lab in terms of activity. It works 24/7 because it's a routine and a stat laboratory. Every day we manage between 5,400 and 5,700 samples per day, tubes per day. We produce more than 26,000 results per day, more than 7.7 million of results per year. We manage over 200 different tests, including clinical chemistry, immunoscience, hematology, hemostasis, and toxicology. We have 14 routine technicians working from 7 to 9:30 p.m. in overlapped shift. And we have 3 technicians per shift in the emergency laboratory. And we also have 7 staff members, pathologists, who are responsible for the validation of the results. As I mentioned, we have performed the first installation worldwide of FlexLab X. And I want to share with you the reasons that we choose FlexLab X as our total laboratory automation solution in our hospital. We start with a previous unsatisfying experience with Inpeco and Siemens because we worked with them for more than 10 years with Aptio, and we were very satisfied with the previous experience and the reliability of the Aptio system. Because FlexLab X has a flexible design that allows us to adapt the lab to the changing needs of the lab and the hospital. Labs, we are very dynamic. We need to change quite often our organization, and FlexLab X is a tool that helps us to be very flexible to adapt ourselves to these changing needs. Because we can achieve a space saving, as I mentioned, the hospital is very old and we don't have a space, so then it's very important to optimize our space. Because we were expecting improvements in the workflow thanks to the 4 levels of sample priority that FlexLab X can provide to our laboratory. Because it's a total laboratory automation solution that allows us to connect analyzers from different vendors, so then it's totally open to connect analyzers from any company. Because we will have a full sample traceability in order to check and in order to know where every single sample is located at every single moment, and to know the further steps that the sample must have. Because we are moving from a total laboratory automation concept to a total testing process automation concept. In our hospital, we are also working with ProTube, which is a system that allows us to totally automatize the pre-analytical phase, reducing in a very significant way the number of errors, and integrating ProTube and FlexLab X, we can achieve a better improvement and a better management of the total laboratory process. And because we also want the best of both worlds. What do I mean with the best of both worlds? In fact, we want to keep the same trusted experience that we had with Inpeco working with Aptio, but we also want a fresh innovation. We need to go further, we need to improve our daily quality, so we want to have the best things. We want to have the trusted experience, we want to work with the same company, but we want to innovate and we want to introduce new things. That's why the presentation of FlexLab X for us was a really great news, because that represents that we can achieve the best of both worlds. Before starting with installation, the project required more than 4 months of complex planning. This was very difficult for us because the problem is that we need to replace Aptio with FlexLab X in the same location we have been working. So that was an incredible challenge for us. There was no option to move the lab to a temporary location, so we need to replace Aptio with FlexLab X working at the same location. And I will share with you how we did that. This is how the lab looks like before the replacing. So then this is the Aptio track. And first of all, we need to move the staff members. This is the place occupied by the staff offices. We move the staff to a temporary location here at the usual meeting room. And then we move all the hematology analyses from the lab to this temporary location. So we place the routine hematology and the routine hemostasis analyses in this blue box. Then we start with the removing all the elements that you can see here in purple color. we remove the old track, we remove old analysis, we remove hematology, and we retain some few analyses for the future lab. Then, in the next step, we split the laboratory into parts. Here you can see in red an area free of analysis. There was nothing installed here. So we start the works to replace the ceiling, the air conditioning, the power supply, the floor, everything was totally renewed. And the rest of the laboratory was totally compressed in the right side of the slide. Here you can see where we place the chemistry analysis and the stat laboratory, including chemistry and hematology. Then here you can see how it was located everything in this area. When we finish the renovation of the red area of the lab, then we switch the spaces. We put all the analyses in the area renewed, and then we start the renovation of the right side of the laboratory. Here you can see real images of the process. Here you can see my technicians, my staff members working at the same time in the laboratory, at the same time that the old track was removed. So here you can imagine the challenge for all of them to work in these difficult conditions. Here you can see other similar images with the old pieces of the Aptio track, while at the same time my technicians and my staff were working with real samples, producing results for the patients in the hospital and for the stats. So that this was quite a challenge for all of us. In this time-lapse video, you can see the whole process. We installed 2 cameras, one in each side of the lab. So in this video, the image is changing from one side to another. And here you can see how we removed the old analysis and we start the renovation of the track for the installation of the FlexLab X. Here you can see that we have removed some of the pieces of the track, and also the Telica systems need to be changed in their location. And then we install, as you can see here, temporary walls to separate the area that was undergoing the works from the lab. This is the area that was freshly renewed. And here you will see in the next coming images the rest of the lab working at the same time. And here you can see the walls that separate the two spaces. Then we receive a new Telica solution, and you will see now the first pieces of the track arriving to our laboratory. Here you can see one of the first steps of the transition with the 2 Telicas. And now this is the moment that we switch spaces. So from the old lab to the new lab already renewed, and then we were about to close this area for the renovation of this space. Here you can see how we changed the floor, the air conditioning, the water supply, electricity, and everything. And here you will see how we receive the pieces of the new track. As you can imagine, that was a very difficult process, because we need to work with the real samples, with the real patients, at the same time that the lab was being installed by Inpeco and Siemens engineers. We took advantage of the renovation of the track to also make changes in all the laboratory to improve the working conditions for the team. And that's very important for us, because we took advantage of that for a better working space and better environment of the system. This is how the lab ends at the end. You can see in pink the pre-analytical area of the track with all the modules to load the samples, and in blue the analytical part of the track, including the hematology systems, the coagulation systems, and the Telica chemistry systems. The project execution was really complex. But the good thing is that in Inpeco, Siemens, and Clinic, we work together as a real team. And that's very important, because this allows us to anticipate the go-live date by 2 weeks. It's quite infrequent that such a complex project was performed in less days than expected. That is the result of the working group of working together, the three companies, to implement the new system. This also was a quite important surprise for us, because being the first FlexLab X installed in the wall, we were very impressed by the level of consistency and effectiveness achieved right from the start. The high market readiness level. Of course, being the first FlexLab X in the wall, we were expecting to have some issues and problems, but the truth is that the system was very reliable from the very beginning, and we had very few problems with that. As a result of the FlexLab X, we have been able to make some important achievements, and one of them is the space optimization. This is the total surface occupied by Aptio, and here you can see the space occupied by FlexLab X, meaning that we have been able to achieve a footprint reduction around 14%. In terms of the previous track length, the system had 108 meters, and now the system has a length of 71 meters, with a total reduction of 37 meters. That's very important because that helps us to improve the working conditions for all the people in the laboratory, and especially because now we have a space available for to connect other analyzers in the futures, while with Aptio there was no space to connect more analyzers. So that means that with the same space, now we have more free space to work in better conditions and also to connect future analyzers in the future. Other improvements that we have achieved is the improved workflow to manage samples with priority. The system has 4 levels of sample priority, and that helps us to manage the samples in a better way. There is a significant noise reduction. Inpeco claims that there is a 30% noise reduction. This is very important because the labs, we work 24/7, and it's quite complex to work with noise in the lab. In terms of decibels, it is correct, it's a 30% noise reduction, but in terms of noise perception, it is much higher. I really must say that we have totally changed the atmosphere in the lab, which is now more relaxed and quiet. This is one of the things that my technicians, they really appreciate the most. Other achievements is that we have increased the capacity of the sample storage. Now we can store more than 25,000 tubes. That means 35% more with a similar footprint. That's very important because, as I mentioned, we don't have a lot of space. The hospital is old and we don't have space to grow. And now with the same footprint, we can store 35% samples more. And this is very convenient for us because we can keep in the storage module 7 days of tubes. Other important improvements is the bulk input module. Here you will see in the video how this bulk input module is able to manage the samples. The capacity is over 1,200 samples per hour, and you can see here the robotic arm picking up the tubes and loading the tubes into the truck in a very efficient way. It is important to remark, and you will see in the video, that the bulk input module can also manage stat samples. You will see how here the system is loading this tube, but meanwhile, if we load here, the stat sample has been placed before other samples into the truck. Other important achievements is the high level of practicability. Here you can see the software of the system that is very intuitive and interactive, so we can control every single element connected to the truck from this software that has different ways of presentation. And another important thing is that here you can see one of my technicians working with a tablet that allows her to manage everything from the tablet. So she can get close to the analyzer, she can get close to any module connected to the track to make diagnostic movements, to make fixing of issues. So we have a total flexibility to work with the track. The system has also this color code. So the modules has color lights indicating the status of the module. Here, for example, you can see the bulk input module with purple, meaning standby, with red, meaning that there is something needs to be fixed, and blue, meaning that is working without problems. Here you can see the input-output module, again with different colors, meaning different status of the system. That's important because from everywhere you can see the color of the module and you can notice if everything is working properly. The FlexLab X has a state-of-the-art design that makes the lab beautiful and very comfortable for the technicians. We have an open space and more operational control of the laboratory because the modules are smaller compared to Aptio and compared to other solutions in the market. So we have been able to achieve a better and more comfortable working environment for the technicians. And that's very important for us that we spend many hours every day in the lab. But it's also important to remark that we have been able to achieve some improvements regarding the TAT, the turnaround time. In this slide, you can see that before FlexLab X was installed in our hospital, the percentile 90 for the stats was around 54.5 minutes, and now with FlexLab X, the percentile 90 is 50.2 minutes. That means that we have been able to achieve a reduction in the TAT of more than 4.3 minutes. That means a time for a better patient care, and that's very important, and so it is something very remarkable that we have been able to reduce the TAT just installing the FlexLab X. Some final thoughts before ending my presentation is that despite the complexity of the project, the result has been a success. We are very happy with the result of the project from every single point of view, from technology, from instrumentation, from turnaround time, from space, from working conditions. That the FlexLab X market readiness level was much higher than expected, and this is really important. Being the first lab in the world to install FlexLab X is a risk and also an opportunity. And to be honest, as I mentioned before, the number of issues that we have experienced is very, 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 very small. We have achieved many benefits and improvements, being workflow optimization, noise reduction, TAT improvement, better working environment, and space saving the most relevant. And we, in fact, are expecting further improvements, mainly in the workflow area, once we gain more experience customizing the system according to our needs. I must say at this point that we are working together with Inpeco to improve some of the performances of the track in order to achieve even a better workflow in our lab and in all the labs that will install FlexLab X in the future. And my final thought, technology and automation are important and help us to improve our work and to provide good service to both patients and physicians. But technology and automation are nothing without people. And this project would not have been possible without the work of the entire and technical and staff team of the Core Lab, without the support of the management and the transversal staff of the CDB, without the effort of all the people from Inpeco and Siemens, and without the commitment of the infrastructure and IT department of the hospital. And I would like to end with a quote that I love, is that the pessimist complains about the wind, the optimist expects it to change, and the realist adjusts the sails. I really think that here in Spain and there in China, the labs, we always face challenges. The situation is difficult all around the globe, especially for the health system. And we, people working at the labs, we are very realistic people that we always adjust the sales. Thank you so much, Sheshe, for your attention, and I will be here to reply any question that you can have.